Hi all, and welcome to my festive tech calendar contribution for this year, viewing a list of Christmas presents within Microsoft Fabric, where I'll show you how you can query text-based files to view a list of Christmas presents within Microsoft Fabric and show you some interesting features within Microsoft Fabric as well. Now, the content of this video is that first of all, I will go through my bio and highlight some key aspects relating to this year's festive tech calendar. Then, I'm going to present an overview of Microsoft Fabric in my own unique way, so that I can highlight some key aspects relating to this video. And then finally, I am going to show you some demos. Now, those of you who do not celebrate Christmas can still take things away from this video, especially if you're studying for the DP600 exam, which is due to be available from next month. In addition to that, I do want to highlight the fact that I did say earlier this year that if I was selected again, I would change my Christmas sweater, as I've worn the same one for the last few videos, and as you can see, I am a man of my word. So, all that's left for me to say is, I hope you have as much fun watching this video as I did making it, and for those of you who celebrate them, happy holidays and have a fantastic Christmas. So for the benefit of those I've yet to meet, my name is Kevin Chant and I'm a data engineering manager in the Netherlands. However, as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm actually originally from the southwest of the UK. Now, I've worked in IT since the days of Windows 95, and that's probably as much I should say about that. And over that time, I've worked in various sectors, including the banking, oil, and health insurance industries. Over the years, I've gained various certifications, including the two you can see on the screen. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I'm what's known as a dual category MVP, because I currently have awards for both data platform and developer technologies. Now you can find me at 3 different places online. For example, I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky as @KevChant. You can find me on LinkedIn with a nice user-friendly URL. I have my own blog where I post a lot about data platform and developer technologies, quite often the two together. And as of late, I've published quite a fair few posts relating to Microsoft Fabric. And I have my own GitHub site as well, where I share quite a few repositories that people can download and use as templates to perform CI/CD for various services. For example, services such as Azure SQL Database, Azure Synapse Analytics SQL Pools, and one that's more relevant for this video, Microsoft Fabric Data Warehouses. Now, this year's festive tech calendar does have some supporters, one of which are Avanade, and they are giving away a prize as part of a prize draw this year, which is a fantastic Santa's Visit Lego kit. Now, to take part in this prize draw, you need to write a post on LinkedIn about a subject in tech that you are passionate about. And in your post, you must mention Avanade by using the @ symbol. So basically, type in the @ symbol followed by Avanade, and also include the Passion for Tech hashtag as well. Once you've put your post on LinkedIn, you'll then automatically entered into the prize draw, where you have a chance of winning this prize. Now, the final thing I want to highlight is that if you go to the Festive Tech Calendar page and scroll down, you will see that this year the team are raising money for the Raspberry Pi Foundation, which is a fantastic cause. And I want to encourage all of you to donate towards this year's cause, because the organisers of this year's Festive Tech Calendar have put in a lot of effort in their own time to make this possible. And in addition to that, all the material that you're seeing this month from a lot of us in the community, we all do in our spare time. So we greatly appreciate it if you could donate to this cause. Anyway, now I'm going to show you a very unique overview of Microsoft Fabric. So I am sure by now some of you have seen a version of this diagram before, which represents the Microsoft Fabric architecture. And it's based on the 4 pillars that you can see on the top right hand of the screen. So going across from left to right, it's a comprehensive analytics platform where everything is in one software as a service platform. So basically go to one website and everything will be at your fingertips. It's lake centric and open, which includes storing all the data in the same place, preferably with the same format. And it empowers every business user to immediately get value from the data using methods that are familiar to them, and it's going to be AI powered because, as you may be aware, there will be multiple Copilot experiences deployed within Microsoft Fabric over time. Now, just to help with some terminology here, all of these different workloads you see are actually what are known as experiences, and within these experiences you work with multiple items. So for example, in the data engineering experience, you work with lake houses and notebooks, and within Data Factory you work with data pipelines and data flows. Now, even though Microsoft Fabric does offer a lot, I do recommend using 2 other groups of services with Microsoft Fabric as well, which are Microsoft Purview for your compliance and governance needs within Microsoft Fabric, and Azure DevOps so that you can use Git integration within Microsoft Fabric as well. Now, OneLake is the unified storage solution within Microsoft Fabric. And the reality is it's a bit like OneDrive because it's a layer of abstraction above multiple Azure Data Lake storage accounts. So you don't have to worry about configuring authentication or networking in those Azure Data Lake storage accounts. You just use the OneLake, and you get one OneLake per Microsoft Fabric tenant. Now, just give a quick overview of the experiences as well. So we have the Data Factory experience, which you would use to ingest data within Microsoft Fabric. And there's 2 main items you would use to do this in the Data Factory experience at this moment in time, which are data flows, which are a low-code, no-code solution, and data pipelines for the decoding experiences. Then you have Power BI to manage your business intelligence. And the reality is that Microsoft Fabric is based on the Power BI architecture. So if you have a Power BI background, you are going to thrive in Microsoft Fabric. Now, working with Power BI is the same as before, only not, because there are a lot of new innovations and optimizations that have appeared because of Microsoft Fabric. For example, now you have a new mode called Direct Lake Mode, which allows Power BI to directly query data that is stored in OneLake. And there are some interesting blog posts out there relating to the performance of Direct Lake Mode. Next, there is Data Activator, which you can use to generate alerts based on certain conditions. At this moment in time, a couple of experiences within Microsoft Fabric support it. And I tend to tell people that it's basically been data-driven plus. Then there's the data engineering experience, and this is where you would work with lake houses. So for those of you who worked with lake houses in other services, this will be a very familiar environment for you. because you work with notebooks and what is known as a lakehouse editor. Then there's the data warehouse experience, and this is where you would use T-SQL to work with data at scale. So those of you who have worked with other Microsoft data warehouse solutions in the past, for example, Azure SQL Data Warehouse or Azure Synapse Analytics SQL pools, will be very familiar to the concept. Then there is real-time analytics, which is based on KQL or KQL, and it actually comes with a KQL database. And you get to work with these objects called event streams inside it as well, where you can have multiple sources and multiple destinations. And finally, there is the data science experience, and this is where your data scientists can collaborate together to work on various things such as models, experiments, etc. And it does come with some interesting things as well. For example, it comes with the Synapse ML library, and it also comes with MLflow integrated into it. Plus, what you can use now is the new SymPy Python library as well. And another interesting feature called Data Wrangler, which allows you to basically work with your data frames in a Power Query related way. And as I mentioned earlier, the idea is that experiences can read and write data from one lake in the same format. Now, all of these experiences integrate with each other in some interesting ways. They don't work separately, which introduces some interesting possibilities. For example, when you're working with items in the data factory experience, you can have a lakehouse as a destination, or a warehouse potentially as a destination, or the KQL database as another potential destination. Also, when you're working within a lakehouse, you can open what's known as a read-only SQL Analytics endpoint, which basically opens up a read-only version of the warehouse editor that you can use to do select statements against data that's in your lakehouse. And you can go the other way around as well. So if you're working within warehouse editor, you can actually query lakehouse objects. And Jovan Popovic from Microsoft has a very interesting blog post on how to do this. Now, if you're working with event streams within real-time analytics, you can have either a lakehouse or data activator as a destination. However, event streams aren't the only source for data activator, because rather interestingly, you can have it directly from Power BI reports as well. So you can actually set triggers based on thresholds that are specified within Power BI, which is quite interesting. Now, talking about Power BI, if you're working within the data science experience within a notebook, you can actually use the new SymPy Python library to directly query objects inside the Power BI reports. In other words, you can directly query the semantic model. Talking about Power BI a bit more, if you're working, for example, within the lakehouse editor or the warehouse editor, or you're dealing with KQL datasets, from within any of those, you can, within a couple of clicks, start creating a Power BI report. And if you create a Power BI report from data that's either in a lakehouse or in a warehouse, you can look to take advantage of using direct lake mode. Now, all of this can introduce some interesting possibilities for various scenarios. For example, say you have multiple CSV source files stored in an Azure Data Lake storage account. you can actually ingest that data using either a data flow or a data pipeline, with the destination being a lakehouse, which stores its data within one lake. And once the data is there, you can actually query the data using Power BI. And rather coincidentally, that is one of the demos that you will see shortly. So for the benefit of those of you who have yet to watch last year's video, last year I manipulated a couple of data sets that are available on Kaggle.com to create two different sets of CSV files. The first set of CSV files contained lists of all the Christmas presents that various people wanted in different locations. And the second one I created was a list of people who had been naughty or nice. Now last year I showed how you can use Azure Databricks to take these CSV files and actually create what are known as delta tables from them, which can then be read either within Azure Databricks or from within Azure Synapse Analytics. So this year I want to first show how you can read the delta tables that were created as part of Azure Databricks, because that's one particular happy path that a lot of people are very keen to know about. So if I go over now to Microsoft Fabric, and I will go into the Synapse Data Engineering experience, and what I'm actually going to do is open up a workspace that I created previously. From there I'm going to open up a lakehouse, and once it opens I'm going to make the resolution a bit bigger for everyone. Now when you open up the lakehouse editor, it comes with two different sections. So you have tables, which are the nicely curated data tables that you can work with in Fabric, and the files section, which can be any particular file types. Now when you're working with just files, you can just upload files of any type you want, and you can create shortcuts as well to other locations. So here, as you can see, the shortcut locations can be other places in one lake, or it can be external case locations such as Azure Data Lake Storage or Amazon S3. And as you can see here, the raw CSV files I showed you earlier, I actually created a shortcut to them. So these are actually the files that are in Azure Data Lake Storage, and you can tell they're a shortcut because there's a little link icon in the bottom right hand corner. And I've actually done the same thing for the two delta tables that I created in Databricks last year. So if I zoom in again, you'll see there's a link in the top left hand corner, and that represents the fact that these delta tables are actually based on the files that are still in Azure Data Lake Storage. I haven't created a new table in the lakehouse at all. This is directly reading from the files in Data Lake Storage. So that is how you can do that particular happy path, and from there I can do various things. For example, I can create a new semantic model. Now, to help with a bit of terminology here, semantic model is the new name for data sets. So if you worked with data sets in the past or Power BI or Microsoft Fabric, be aware of the name change. Now, once I create a semantic model, I can do various things with them. For example, here, I've got too many items open. So for example here, I can open up a semantic model, do analyze in Excel for the lineage, etc. Or open it up. And then from here, I can just click on new report, and this will automatically look to create a new report for me. So as you can see, with just creating a shortcut and a few clicks, I can look to create a Power BI report based on the contents of the delta tables which I created in Databricks, which are still in the Azure Data Lake storage account, as you can see here. So next I will focus on how you can actually ingest the raw data, like these ones here, directly within Microsoft Fabric. In my last demo, I showed you how you can query existing Delta tables that you had created using Azure Databricks within Microsoft Fabric. Now I want to show you a couple of ways that you can actually ingest the original source files and how you can work with them within Microsoft Fabric. So first of all, I'm going to go back into Microsoft Fabric and select Data Factory. And then from there, I'm going to make the resolution a bit bigger and actually select a workspace that I've created earlier. And as you can see, there's a lot of items here, so I'm going to make the resolution bigger and order by type. Now, the first method I want to show you for how you can orchestrate the data movement is by using data flows. Now, for those who aren't aware, data flows, and this is technically Data Flows Gen 2, is a low-code, no-code solution that you can use to perform your ETL and ELT. So the idea is that you can go through, for example, a nice wizard. So if I click on Get Data here, I can go for a nice friendly wizard to go and get the data from somewhere. And in our particular case, I want to go through this wizard and do click, click, click to select the CSV files that I showed you earlier. And then from there, once the wizard is completed, a new query gets created. In reality, I can also just target an individual CSV file as well. And as you saw when I clicked on Get Data just now, I actually have a lot more options, as you can see. So once these queries have been created, what I can actually do, and I'll make the resolution a bit better to see this, I can do multiple transformations just like you can do in Power Query. So as you can see here, using multiple steps. And then once that's done, I can select the destination. And as you can see here, this particular query has a lakehouse as a destination. However, I didn't have a destination specified, what I can do is click on Add Data Destination in the Home ribbon, and that gives me an option of 4 different types of destinations, which are Azure SQL Database, Lakehouse, Azure Data Explorer, or Warehouse. And then once I've completely finished putting everything into this data flow, all I have to do is click on Publish in the bottom right hand corner, and that will run data flows for me. And I can show you how that looks once it's been completed. So if I go into the Lakehouse and I make the resolution even bigger, you can see I've actually got 2 tables that were created from that particular data flow here. And as well as being able to preview the data, I can do additional things by clicking on the ellipses as well. For example, open a notebook, rename, delete, etc. And even optimize, which is quite a nice thing to have in the GUI. So the other option I wanted to show you is by using a data pipeline. Now, for those of you who've worked with Azure Data Factory or Synapse pipelines in the past, this will be a very familiar concept to you. And in this particular pipeline, I've set it to ingest the data from my Azure Data Lake storage account in 2 different locations. So the group of CSV files you saw earlier are all being ingested at once in this particular activity, and then in the other activity I'm targeting a specific file. And then once the data has been ingested into the files section of the Lakehouse, I then manipulate that data by running a notebook. So as you can see, using a pipeline means I have a decoding experience option here. And I can actually show you how this pipeline, how the notebook looks. So if I go back into the workspace and I open up the notebook, you will see I've got code here to manipulate the files that have ended up in the file location in my lakehouse. And if I go down here, you can see them in their individual locations. Now, last year, admittedly, I did most of my demos using SQL when working in notebooks. However, you'll see that this time around I'm using Python. And one of the main reasons I've decided to use Python is because, rather interestingly, Microsoft actually use Python in some of their Microsoft Learn examples. Now, if you want to see some examples of SQL, you can either watch the video I did last year for the Festive Tech Calendar, or of course, look at the Microsoft Fabric documentation online. So if I scroll through this notebook again, you'll see I'm basically creating data frames based on the data inside the files in the files location. And then from there, if I scroll further down, I'm actually looking to create the delta tables. And then I'm filtering out the data before inserting them into the actual tables that I've created. So for example, here after filtering, I'm using a merge to insert into the UK naughty list table. And then I do the similar thing again for all of those who are going to get presents. So as you can see, there are advantages to using either methods, and in fact, when you're working within a pipeline, you can actually specify a data flow as well. So I can actually show you this. So if we go back to here, you can see that I can actually add a data flows and activity. So another option you can do is have people who are keen to work with low-code, no-code experience to create the data flows, and then you can put those data flows inside a pipeline to do additional decoding with afterwards. So I just thought I would highlight that. Now, whichever method you use, once you get the data into the lakehouse, you do have some interesting things you can do from there. So like I showed earlier, you can create your own semantic models based on the tables you've got within the lakehouse. So if we go over to here, and you will see I've got a semantic model, and if I open up one of these semantic models, you can see I can open up the data model, and then from there open up a report. And if I hover over a particular model, and I see you can actually see the storage mode is set to direct lake, which means when I go to create a new report in Power BI, it will actually use the new direct lake mode to query the data at a nice high speed. And there are some interesting blog posts out there about the performance of direct lake. Now I'm just going to close some of these items a minute, just so that I can show you a report I did earlier. So for example, let's go to the naughty list, because I can highlight some interesting facts if I use this particular one. So I'll just zoom in here. So I can, if I want, for example, create a matrix of who's going to get what where, and use slices, etc. And of course the usual kind of reports that you can create with Power BI. However, rather interestingly, another thing I can do directly in the report is set an alert. And as you can see, if I create this alert, it actually creates the alert in Data Activator. So I'm actually creating a reflex item. And I've already gone through this, so what I can do, I can show you the reflex that I've created. So by going in the Data Activator here, I click on design. As you can see, I've already got a trigger in place that I send an email out if the threshold for the naughty people in Bristol goes over 5,000. So I just wanted to highlight here that once you have got the data in the lake house, you can do other things as well. There are various other things, as I mentioned earlier on my very nice diagram I showed earlier, that you can do as well. For example, once I created a report in Power BI, I can use the new SciPy Python library to actually directly create a semantic model, etc. However, hopefully this demo has given you an idea of some of the things you can do once you've actually got the data inside Microsoft Fabric, because there are a world of possibilities. All the different experiences, as I showed earlier in my other diagram, can all interact with each other in different ways. Anyway, that's the end of the demos for this video. I hope you all enjoyed them. And all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching this video. And for those of you who celebrate them, happy holidays and have a fantastic Christmas.